Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We are now moving on to the gluing process and finalizing of your fursuit head. I like to start by making sure to trim off any excess fur, for example, like around the eyes or the lips. This just makes sure that the glue isn't getting snagged on anything. So once you get to the actual gluing process, I like to start by gluing at the nose. This just ensures that the base has something to snag onto and is going to be tight when you're pulling and spreading the glue. To follow, I like to do the symmetry rule where you learned at the very beginning. I like to glue one side, then the other side. Make sure to do little pieces at a time. There is no rush on this process. Once you get toward the back of the head, you don't have to go so heavy on the glue, and you shouldn't go heavy on the glue anyway. This isn't something where it's like gonna fall off or anything. Trust me, this hot glue can really keep things together. You'll notice that I take the entire face piece and flip it onto the base every single time, even if I'm not gluing that part. This just allows you to keep things in place, use the guidelines, and make sure that everything is lining up the way that it's supposed to, and it really helps with symmetry. So something I mentioned in the notes at the beginning about gluing toward the edges, this is just a good example when you get toward the back of the base, and similar to when you're doing the mouth edges, don't glue right up on the edges. Make sure to leave a little bit of space. This is going to be important for when we start sewing these pieces together down the line. So after the bulk work is done, this is where you can go back and glue a lot closer to the edges on the eye and the mouth. Not the sides of the head, still leave that for later. The same goes for the inner ear, as we are exclusively going to be sewing those parts. This is where we move on to sewing all the raw edges. That's why it's so important to leave just a little bit of space, because you want to be able to sew the fabric to the lining and all of the other places. The next place you're going to want to sew is where the cheek piece meets the back piece, as well as the inner ear connecting to the outside fur of the ear. I know that doesn't make sense, but you'll literally see what I'm doing in this section right here. I can't explain it with my words, but I can explain it through visuals. You're basically closing up the sides of the head that we left open after attaching the front piece and the back piece of the head when we were sewing the face pieces together. So once you have all those pieces sewn, this is where you can move on to shaving. This is not your final shaving. This is actually more like a second to last shaving. The last shaving is going to be for when the base is completely done and everything is put together. Make sure to really hit up those edges because we're going to be putting lining on those, and you're going to be shaving a lot during the process of the finalization, so don't think that this is the last part of the shaving because there's always more shaving to do. After you've shaved up all the edges, this is where you take a piece of felt and line the mouth. You don't have to do this. This is just to give your suit a cleaner look, and there's many ways you can do lips. This is just how I like to do mine. This also just gives some extra security to what you've already sewn. At this point, you can go ahead and add your teeth. These are just preset teeth that I use for default for all of my suits. I add fangs whenever the ref sheet requires fangs and whatnot, so teeth can be all different shapes and sizes, so go ahead and play around with teeth. For the eye lining, I just like to go around the eye and make a simple pattern. This can be as thick as you want it depending on what your character wants, and if it has eyelashes or not, you can just go ahead and add those in the corner or wherever you'd like them. So your face is finally done. This is where you can move on to the neck. Right here you see me putting a bandana on the back of the head. You don't have to do this. This is just because I wanted there to be a bit of extra room toward the back of the head, like when the person's putting on the head, as opposed to it being flush up against the duct tape dummy, as these duct tape dummies are great, but they're still not exactly the size of a normal human head. So just play around with it and use whatever materials you have. I understand that not everybody has a dummy to use, and you can, work up a neck depending on what mannequin you're using, or if you can also pattern it with your own neck. I like to put on the neck by starting at the edges where the cheek is, and then work my way to the front and then to the other cheek, and then I'll go to the back and invisible stitch the top half to the neck. Now you can take the lining of your balaclava and connect it to the neck. Where you want to connect it to the neck is up to you, depending on how your neck is. Sometimes it'll just fall into place and you'll just have to line it up a little bit and it'll be good to go. At this point, this is where you can choose to add hair or not. So hair can be done in so many different ways. I'm doing a very simple mohawk. I like to just take the craft paper, pattern it out a little bit to what the head looks like, and then just shape it to what I need it to be. Hair can be as simple or as complex as you make it. There are so many ways to do it. I will have a tutorial in the future of how to do specific hairstyles. If that's what you're looking for, please let me know in the comments. You'll see as I'm doing this hair, I do a lot of alterations to the actual pattern because, you know, you keep altering it until you get what you want. Putting on the hair is pretty straightforward. It can also be done in many different forms, like connecting it via magnet or connecting it via little snaps. There's many ways to do it. Because of what this suit is, this is a suit that I'm just gonna have it attached to the head. You'll also see that for stiffness, I'll put some polyfill inside of the mane so it can actually, you know, have some shape to it. At this point, you can start adding all the accessories that you would like the tongue and eyelids. I usually like to provide two tongues for my suits. It's a blep tongue and a normal tongue. I actually find it super adorable that most of my clients actually use their blep tongue over the normal tongue, and it's just the most adorable thing ever. And last but not least, you can touch up the inside of your suit. You can do this a lot earlier in the process, but it is something I like to do toward the end, just as like a final piece. You can leave it like this, but I like to cover up the exposed pieces of foam around the mouth because going the extra little mile to make the suits look neat on the inside is just a plus. And with that, you are all done. Thank you guys so much for joining me in making a fursuit head. I'll have more tutorials in the future. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!